taken by it, especially where you talked about the myths about the government's reform policies and why they may end up not having any practical credence. Can you take us through, as briefly as possible, the central argument of your thesis?
Right, so the central...
People said we are only criticizing Tinubu's government, that Tinubu is not working, Tinubu is not doing well. That's what we talk about every day. That we don't offer solutions. Oppositions don't offer solutions to the problem. They don't give Tinubu advice on what to do after subsidy removal, fruiting the naira, that people are only criticizing. Those two major things that Tinubu, that he was very brave to have removed subsidy and devalue fruiting the naira. Then after it becomes a problem, he doesn't know what to do again. And everything done dabaru. Now, a lot of persons have offered solutions. Brilliant solutions. Now, this man has been offering solutions because it has happened already. We are in this mess already that APC created. How do we get out of it? We are all looking for solutions. That's why we need somebody who have the experience, what it takes to solving the problem that they have created. Now, why waiting for somebody else to come take over from Tinubu if it is possible, right? Now, a lot of persons have come to offer their own solutions, right? What Tinubu needs to do, it with immediate effect. At least start from there. You see changes. But being a stubborn person who does not listen, he believes in what comes to his mind. This is what I want to do. Whether it's good for the country, it's good for the nation, it doesn't concern him as far as it's good for him and some persons in the cabinet. Now listen to Olise Agbakuba. This man has been dishing out solutions. These are, when you listen to Olise Agbakuba, whenever you listen to him, these are messages you need to pay money, as in you listen to in seminar, you pay money to go to seminar and listen to message like this. You know Olise Agbakuba. So take your time, listen to what he's saying. He has been, like I said, a lot. He has dished out a lot of information, ideas, brilliant ideas, solutions to this problem. And you will still agree now or later. What he's saying, don't take 100% of what he's saying. What he's saying is still the solution to this problem. But we need to act very fast. Please take your time and watch this video to the end. And please subscribe to this YouTube channel. I'll be your guy. Run on for me now.
The argument is based on what is called root cause analysis. So the root cause analysis principle looks at the underlying reason for success or failure. And at Tinubu's midterm, I noticed everyone was concentrating on economic issues. But I thought that we needed to go deeper. And there's a principle around the root cause analysis process. It's called when the cause ceases to have effect, the effect ceases. So what's the cause of Nigeria's economic dilemma? If you discover and pinpoint what the cause is and you remove it, then you solve a problem. So that's the basics. So I didn't ask. Tinubu, as president, has obviously taken two absolutely courageous decisions that no other president was able to confront. So he got full marks for that. But how far can he go after that on the basis of what I describe as a absolutely cracked foundation? The foundational existence of Nigeria is very, very questionable. So I then say in my analysis that we must look at the political structures of this country, where we have a centripetal, overburdened, centralized, planned economy, where Abuja is all that happens. 774 local governments, 36 state governments don't play a role in the governance structure. So the federal government is overburdened. And if the federal government is overburdened, it's not able to deliver on all what it wants to do. Remember under Buhari, you had two, very capable ministers. One was Rotimi Amechi, running all over the country to fix railways. The other was BRF, Babatunde Fashola, running all over the country to fix roads. But how far did they go? And there was a very interesting editorial run by your station, Arise, and I saw it 2 days ago. So we had Captain Tinubu steering a vessel, and there were sharks all over the vessel, and he was having trouble navigating. And I think the point was to show how difficult it is to navigate the economic terrain of Nigeria. So you had many sharks, some you had inflation, cost of living, unemployment, But the advert also said, this is important, the advert also said that Tinubu was steering 200 million Nigerians who were aboard the vessel out of danger. So the reverse question is, what exactly were those 200 million people doing on the vessel? Would Mr. Tinubu not feel obliged to ask them to assist him in the governance process? So in that way, you distribute responsibility. So my thesis is simple. Too much power at the center. And my recommendation is also simple. Devolve power at 3 levels: federal, state, and local government. That's it, and we'll see development. You can't cut out the local government. And it's also important that we all realize that we belong to a local government. So I live in Lagos, but I belong to the Etiosa local government that should supply me essential services, refuse collection, signage, the basic things. But they don't, because they are disempowered. The Lagos state government enacted the law removing all the powers allocated to the local government under the Constitution by Schedule 4 and assigned it to themselves, and they can't do it. So you have 20 local governments doing absolutely nothing, and a state government overburdened. So it's about distribution. The central issue in my analysis was distribute power.
I have to say, Dr. Bakoba, that your analogy there with that, if you like, that commercial, let me put it that way, that we ran on Arise, it's a kind of editorial focus, really, it's not a commercial. I think that's a very appropriate analogy. And I think it's also very interesting that in that production, just behind Tinubu's head, there is the pirate's flag. I'm sure you noticed that.
Yes.
There is the skull and bones.
Absolutely.
So you cannot discount that in your assessment of whatever is going on in Nigeria, because the pirates are also on board.
Absolutely.
Waiting to scupper whatever it is that's being done. But I mean, I've got to say that your assessment was just great. And just to be clear, the knob of your argument is that without functional government at all levels, economic interventions will continue to produce disappointing results, to use your term, regardless of their technical merit. Just tell us more. Fascinating.
Absolutely. Well, so we see the government trying to do a lot of things at the same time. But they simply don't, I mean, the federal government, because let's first understand that there's a constitution of Nigeria, which is completely flawed, because it assigns power to 3 levels of government. So the federal government exercises power under what is called the exclusive list, and the exclusive list contains 68 items of power. Then the state and the federal exercise power under what is called the concurrent list, and that list contains 30 items of power. But there's also a clause that says that if the federal government exercises power under the concurrent list, then the state government will step aside. Then whatever is not described in the 68 items of power for the exclusive to the federal government and the 33 in the concurrent for the federal and the state will be reserved for the local governments. But the point is that under what is called the doctrine of covering the field, the federal government does everything. That's the problem. That's the problem. So it's not rocket science. Everywhere in the world, power is local. All politics is local. All business is local. So if you follow this principle, say for instance in the United Kingdom, I'm under the borough of Harrow. The borough does all the basic things I need around my borough, not the central government of Sir Keir Starmer. So why is it here that the federal government appropriates the subsidiary power of the local governments onto its table, and that it lacks the capacity, what I refer to as the capacity trap? It lacks the capacity to deliver. So we go round in a circle. We've been going round for the last 60 years, and there's no advancement. So my simple thesis is, it's time for President Tinubu to want to leave a legacy. I mean, he's done an incredibly difficult job of removing the fuel subsidy. It's very tough. And align the naira to float. So what he needs to do is consequentially follow up on these 2 great corrections by allowing participation of the state and the local government actors. That will open up the space. It will open up the space, it will create jobs, it will empower the local governments in Nigeria, it will empower the state governments in Nigeria, and then you will have activity. And then that in turn will have an impact on whatever economic program the federal government will have.
So, I mean, give us a sense of just how endangered Nigeria's future is if it doesn't hearken to this message or this assessment that's contained in your document?
We'll limp along. Look, 80% of Nigerians live in the informal economy anyway. The central, I always laugh when the central bank announces its new monetary policy rates. What monetary policy rates is it measuring? Less than 10% of the circulating income in Nigeria is captured by the CBN. So whatever they announce has no impact. So the real truth about Nigeria's continued survival was identified by General Babangida, because he questioned himself, why aren't we going down? And the answer why we're not going down is that we live in the informal economy. So it's the informal economy that is keeping Nigeria going. Just ask people on the streets about governance. It doesn't concern them, because they have their little daily trades, which they do, return little money to their households, feed their households, manage somehow. I mean, this is the paradox, that they manage somehow to just make a living. That is what is keeping Nigeria going. So Nigeria is not about to fall because of the informal sector. So my theory of this rebasing of Nigeria's governance structure, if not done, will not be an existential threat. But it will make us stay where we are. I mean, from 1960 till to date, I'm not sure that we've seen much development. I was just looking at Vietnam, a country in war, the other day. Its economy has overtaken that of Nigeria. And I said, but this is a country that was in great war. It's overtaken it. India is now the fourth largest economy in the world. The Arabian Peninsula is awash and booming. So what is it that we can do? That's the question. What is it that we can do that will change the paradigm? And that's what I have offered in my assessment.
And as I said, that is an absolutely seminal assessment. But I mean, and I would urge people to actually read it. I don't know how publicly available it is, but beyond the economic argument that you make, because I mean, the political dovetails
Yes.
into the economic, would it be fair to say that obviously there is a strong political element there? Today is the eve of Nigeria's Democracy Day, and that could one make the argument that this is you also taking a fresh look at the issue of restructuring and making a more accessible argument for it?
Absolutely. Because you see, the proponents of restructuring, we have to admit, put it in a rather aggressive, non-diplomatic way. We need to carry all Nigerians, all ethnic, religious, the entire multi-diversity of Nigeria needs to be on board the restructuring argument. And therefore, I like to use very neutral, statements like rebasing, rebalancing, redistribution of power, so nobody feels threatened. There's some parts of Nigeria that feel that this thing about restructuring is to break up the country, but it's not. It isn't. And I'm even happy that the APC, the ruling party, adopts restructuring as part of its candidate manifesto. But the problem, I think, and this is where President Tinubu comes in as the leader of the nation, to engage in a debate that allows every Nigerian to see, particularly the governing class, to see that to empower state governors or the state government and to empower the local government will make Nigeria a greater country. Not less virile, to make it greater. So my appeal on the eve of June 12 is, let us take a fresh appraisal. Let us revisit this process. Let us really sit down and have a good conversation and to say, what is the problem? And the problem is Nigeria is not developing. So that's it. What can be done to develop Nigeria? It's to look at the structure of the country and to say that we can't have a politically over-centralized capital in Abuja. And that's why you find politicians. I mean, I don't blame the APC. So it's the PDP that I would say, why do you allow your guys jump into the APC? The APC will be very happy, but the danger is if we end up with a one-party state, that's not good for democracy. What you need is a multi-party process. So all of us in this, dilemma, because it's a big dilemma, politicians, policy people, all of us, we need to really have a conversation. But the only man who can lead the conversation, and I really would urge him to use June 12 as an opportunity, 30 years, to revisit Where are we going? What's Nigeria's future? The future cannot be in a constitution that is not autochthonous. It's not owned by us. People must feel that they own the process. And that is the constitution, which is so alien to Nigeria. So that by tomorrow, June 12, when the president does all of his ceremonies, I would invite him to really take a very deep, introspective look at where Nigeria can be going. And the legacy will be his. IBB had the chance. He didn't take it. Today he's launching a book about his regrets. I don't want President Tinubu to regret down the line that, oh, I had the opportunity and didn't do it. Now is the time to engage Nigerians in a forward-looking program that will lift us so that we truly will be the largest and most important country in Africa. That's the plea I would make to the president.
But I mean, it is a difficult judgment, isn't it, to make in terms of how you approach the government, how much you push them, and how much you potentially even embarrass them into action. Because clearly the risk is if you push them and embarrass them too much, then the reaction you seek might not be forthcoming.
Yeah, but you see, it then takes a great man of vision to understand that there is a problem. And I go back to the thing I saw on Arise about the Captain Tinubu in the ship. There's a problem. So Captain Tinubu realizes that there's a problem. But the issue is now, what's the answer? I'm tired of us keep talking about problem. Let's look for solutions, because things are not working. So it is for the president, and that's why he's the commander-in-chief. That's why he's the chief executive officer of Nigeria by virtue of Section 5 of the Constitution. It's his responsibility to amalgamate the various opinions around what's the trouble with Nigeria, as Chinua Achebe so eloquently said. And he answered the question, Chinua Achebe. The trouble with Nigeria is simply and squarely a problem of leadership. So, Mr. President, that is President Tinubu, has Nigeria's leader, has the ultimate responsibility to amalgamate the different voices, the different opinions, the divergence of concepts into the question that Bola Ige of blessed memory asked: do we want to be Nigerians? If yes, he asked those two questions. Do we want to be Nigerians? If yes, how? Do I want to be married to my wife? If yes, how? That's it. It's not rocket science. And that discussion can only be driven by the man with the political power. Absolutely. That's the president.
Absolutely.
Our role as policy people is to assist in shaping a new federal system that will fit our multilingual, multi-religious, multi-ethnic. You know, I of course take the opportunity to remember Chief M.K. Obiola, and he was a man full of jokes. So he once told me how he ran his household. I said, oh, it's not a problem for me, because none of my wives will give me any wahala over whether one of my kids wants a goosey soup and the chief wife is providing bagiri, because all of them have the decentralized power to run their kitchens. Not me or my first wife. All my wives have the decentralized power. In this little statement came a strong message of how to manage diversity. Nigeria has to learn how to manage its diversity. If you bring diverse people together without boundaries, without space, there'll be wahala. There's bound to be trouble.
You make a lot of sense there.
How to arrange, if you know how to, do you know that for the sake of Quebec, as small as it is, French is an official language. For the sake of Quebec, they understand the essence of inclusion. So the policy of inclusion in a country as diverse as Nigeria is so important. Do you know that Nigerians are so naive that when they look at a particular person committing a heinous crime that we all know he has committed, simply because he's from my place on the church, he didn't do anything, it's that bad. So we must not underrate diversity and the need to create the relevant mechanisms to manage it. Managing diversity is crucial.
I think the analogies you use are just so brilliant and so good and easy for people to understand. But just returning to the president, I mean, is this a good time for him to do this, a time to strike while he has growing support in the National Assembly and in his ruling APC party? And if so, do you expect him to be pragmatic about the reforms that you recommend?
I hope so. And I'll say this, Nigerians are less concerned about the state of our political parties. All the wahala they give us, which we see on Arise and channels and all the other TVs, it doesn't concern my driver. Not interested. They're interested in how to eat, how to look after themselves. So there are two ways to do this. Continue with your politics, no problem. President Tinubu obviously would like a second term. That's understandable. Continue with the politics. Wike is part of the issue. Continue with all that. But turn attention to governance. So politicking is on the left side, governance is on the right. Governance is about how the Nigerians feel about themselves and how comfortable they feel about survival. That can easily go with politicking. So when you're politicking, dragging PDP people like the former vice presidential candidate who, for reasons that are unclear, jumps from PDP into APC, but that's his choice. I respect that choice. So leave all that alone and say, right, we'll play that game at that level. But the governance issue is so important to me as Nigerian president that I have a duty to ensure that Nigerians enjoy that liberty and prosperity promised by Section 14 of the Constitution. That is possible. It can actually marry both agendas.
And promised by his manifesto as well.
Absolutely. That it's easy to handle both of it. The politics on the one hand and the governance on the other. So you look at the 200 million Nigerians and you give them what they want. And then when it comes to politicking, go ahead. Nobody says you shouldn't do it. I'm pragmatic enough to understand that you cannot wish away politicking, particularly of the Nigerian brand. So let them continue politicking. Let them carry away all the PDP people who want to join the APC. That's fine. That's their problem. But could you please remember that there are 200 million Nigerians who need basic things. They don't need billions. They just need food, education for their kids, Medicare. That's it. We had a governor of the central bank who allegedly built about 800 houses. This can translate to one general hospital per local government in Nigeria. That's governance.
Indeed.
And we have the resources to do it. And if you do it, people will be, I might be wrong, but I can tell you that people are less concerned about who is president of Nigeria than what Ayo Fayose ably and aptly described as stomach infrastructure.
Indeed.
That's the most important thing for the Nigerian people. So whatever the government can do for them is important.
Right. That is just been, I have to say,